expands its reach in Latin America. Our correspondents went to the desert to examine how China secured its new base, a symbol of its growing clout in the region. A station including a 16-story tall antenna in a remote area of Argentina. 150-ton device with its hulking dish embracing the open sky is the centerpiece of a $50 million satellite and space mission control station built by the Chinese military. The isolated base is one of the most striking symbols of Beijing's long push to transform Latin America and shape its future for generations to come, often in ways that directly undermine the United States' political strategic power in the region. The station began operating in March, playing a pivotal role in China's expedition to the far side of the moon. The Argentina officials say they are elated to support. But the way the base was negotiated in secret at a time when Argentina desperately needed investments and concerned that it could enhance China's intelligence gathering capability in the Western Hemisphere, have set off a debate in Argentina about the risk and benefits of being pulled into China's orbit. Beijing has transformed the dynamics of the region, from the agenda of its leaders and businessmen to structures of its economies. The content of Evan Ellis, a professor of Latin America Studies at the United States Army War College. China, with Argentina's help, is engaged in a bold effort to explore the far side of the moon. A satellite was launched from China in May to aid in the effort. For most of the past decade, the United States has paid little attention to its backyard in the Americas. Instead, it declared a pivot towards Asia, hoping to strengthen military and diplomatic ties as part of a Obama administration strategy to constrain China. Since taking office, the Trump administration has retreated from that approach in some fundamental ways, walking away from a free trade pact with Pacific nations, launching a global trade war, and complaining about the burden of Washington's Security Committee to its closest allies in Asia and other parts of the world. All the while, China has been directly or discreetly carrying out a far-reaching plan of its own across Latin America. It has vastly expanded trade, bailed out governments, built enormous infrastructure projects, strengthened military ties, and locked up tremendous amounts of resources, hitching the fate of several countries in the region to its own. China made its intention clear enough back in 2008, in a first-of-its-kind policy paper that drew relatively little notice at the time. Beijing argued that nations in Latin America were at a similar stage of development as China with much to gain on both sides. Leaders in the region were more than receptive. The primary over Latin America that Washington had largely taken for granted since the end of the Cold War was being challenged by a of leftist presidents who governed much of the region, including Brazil, Argentina, Venezuela, and I know somebody from it, and Bolivia, and wanted a more autonomous region. Beijing invitation came at a ferocious time during the height of the financial crisis. Latching on to China's appetite for the region, oil, iron, soybeans, and copper ended up shielding Latin America from the worst of the global economic damage. The pride of oil and other commodities tanked in 2011, several countries in the region suddenly found themselves on shaky ground. Once again, China came to their aid, striking deals that further cemented its role as an essential player in Latin America for decades. Even with parts of Latin America shifting to the right politically in recent years, its leaders have tailored their policies to fulfill China's demands. Now, Beijing's dominance in the region, in much of the region, and what it means for America's waning stature is starting to come into shape and sharp focus. Let's say it's Fade Acampa, Argentina ambassador to China. Back in 2013, he published a book with the alarming sounding title, The Silent Invasion, The Chinese Landing in South America. China's already there. This came out July 30th, and no one knew about it. And this person did a really good article. I don't know why it didn't get any play, though. Maybe because... Is that when all the Q crap was happening? Sorry, my back is starting to hurt. It hurt sitting in a set of China's insurgency in the region. Trade between China and countries in Latin America and the Caribbean reached $244 billion last year, more than twice what it was a decade earlier, according to Boston University Global Development Policy Center. Man, that's a lot of words. Imagine having to introduce that person. Since 2015, China has been South America's top trading partner, eclipsing the United States. Perhaps more significantly, China has issued tens of billions of dollars in commodity-backed loans across the Americas, giving its claim over a large share of the region's oil. That's why they're going after Venezuela. They want that oil. We do. The United States wants that oil. But that's why Russia and China are down there. Remember, Venezuela has the most... I'm going to screw this up. The most oil that's been untapped. Is that correct? It's probably not correct. But it has the most oil on the ground. It was like one of the cities was like the richest per capita. A lot of gold down there in Buenos Aires. And you know who used to go down there all the time, right? Let's see. Who went down there? JFK went down there. Both Bushes went down there. Obama went down there. I think Trump's about to go down there. Why are they going to Buenos Aires? There's something weird that's going on down there. And Buenos Aires is a German city in Argentina. It's crazy. There's got to be like 60,000 Germans in that city. And they speak German down there in Argentina. But okay, so China has also made itself indispensable by reciting embattled government, rescuing embattled governments and vital state-controlled companies in countries like Venezuela and Brazil, willing to make big bets to secure its place in the region. Here in Argentina, a nation that had been shut out of international credit markets for defaulting on $100 billion in bonds, China became a godsend for the President Fernandez de Curica. I cannot pronounce that. And while it was extending a helping hand, China began the secret negotiations that led to the satellite and space control station here. That thing's huge. But it only makes sense if you're going to bail somebody out. You're going to want something in return for free. Panama, I know they will. Frank A. Ross, an assistant secretary of state for the arms control during the Obama administration, said he spent much of his time worrying about Chinese budding space program. American intelligence and defense officials watched with alarm as China develops technology to jam, disrupt, and destroy satellites in recent years. and none of us know what the hell to do anymore. Not alone in regarding space as a critical battle space for future wars. Last month, the Trump administration announced it would create a sixth military branch devoted to space. And by the way, Neil deGrasse Tyson, but he said that he actually suggested that in the Bush administration, like 2003, that we should have a space force type of thing. So let's see, antennas and other equipment that support space missions, like the kind China now has here, can increase China's intelligence gathering capability, experts say. A giant antenna is like a giant vacuum cleaner, said Chang, a former investigator who studies China's national security policy. What you are sucking up in signal data, all sorts of things. Spokesman said America's military officials were assessing the implications of Chinese station. Chinese officials declined requests for the interview about the base and their space program. Beyond any strategic contest with the United States, some leaders in Latin America are now having doubts, and I almost said doubts and regrets about their ties to China, worried that past governments have saddled their nation with enormous debt and effectively sold out their future. But so-and-so argued that hitting the brakes on let's make sure that it's on the page. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Let's see. Hitting the brakes on the engagement with China would be short-sighted, particularly at the time when Washington has given up its long-standing role as the region's political and economic anchor. There has been a abdication of leadership by the United States. He said it surrendered that role not because it lost it, but because it doesn't wish to take it on. Government was in crisis mode.
There's a lot more to go on this, but I'll put it in the description. Peace and have a great day.